Hello, this is Nurseology Life by CK coming back at you with another video. Today I want to talk about my experience as a travel nurse, okay? But a little bit of background about myself. I am an LPN, licensed practical nurse. I graduated back in 2010. I have been a nurse for the past 10 years, okay? So I have a 10-year track record. My specialty is home health because I worked in home health for 8 of those years. And then, well, 7 of those years actually. And then 3 of those years, I worked in assisted living and long-term care, okay? I also have extensive experience with pediatrics and ventilator, okay? And so I just wanted to give you that background about myself before I get started with this video, okay? When did I start travel nursing? Well, I have only worked one contract, okay? I started back in December. My first day was December 17th, and my last day was February 11th. So I worked on an 8-week contract, okay? Again, my first contract, and it was a very interesting experience, okay? How did I arrive? Well, I arrived by airplane, and then my car was shipped from Tennessee to Virginia. Now, the cost of having that done was a total of around $1,000 roughly, okay? And so I made an agreement. I went into negotiations with the consulting company that I worked for them to pay for half of that to get my car to the location where I would be staying, okay? And I'm just giving you a little background. I did mention this in my past videos, but for those of you who are new, I'm just kind of going over it a little bit, okay? I'm not going to get too much into detail about the travel and the pay because I did that in my previous videos. But yes, I did have my car shipped to the location because I wanted to drive my car. I did not want to take an Uber back and forth to work every day because that would have costed me more than having my car shipped, okay? So the consulting company did agree to pay for half of that, okay? And then I paid for my plane ticket there. So when I arrived there, my car was already waiting for me, which was very convenient, okay? When I left on February 11th, I drove my car back from Virginia to Tennessee, which was a 13-hour drive, you guys. It was very exhausting. It was, even though the scenery was beautiful, the drive itself was very exhausting because I did not take a break. I did not take 2 days to get from Virginia to Tennessee. I drove straight through because I wanted to get back home as fast as possible, okay? So I drove straight through, and again, it was exhausting, but again, the scenery was beautiful, okay? All right, so the reason why the consulting agency did not pay for half, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So the original agreement was that they paid for half for me to have my car shipped there. There was no agreement for them to pay for half to have my car shipped back, okay? And that was something I should have asked. Again, closed mouths don't get fed. So I should have asked that, right? I should have asked them, well, hey, if you're going to pay for half for my car to get shipped there, then you may as well pay for half of my car to get shipped back. But that wasn't the agreement. So I ended up driving back. I did not want to pay $1,000 for my car to get back, you know, because to me, it's just too much money. Okay, I wanted to save as much of the money that I made as possible because, you know, a girl got plans. You know, so I got to save that money. So I drove back. It did cost me almost $100 in gas, but you know, that's a lot better than $1,000. Okay. So that was my reasoning. All right. So when you're traveling for nursing, that is something that you want to think about, right? You want to think about, how am I going to get there? And when I get there, how am I going to get back and forth to work? Okay. And come up with something that best fits your situation. Okay. The hotel that I stayed in, it was only a 12-minute drive from the facility that I worked for, but it still would have been a $30 a day Uber ride. Okay, so that's definitely something for you to think about. It's definitely something for you to ask the travel agency or the consulting agency, how far will my facility be from my hotel room, if they are paying for your hotel room. Okay, if they are not paying for your hotel room, then you have a little bit more leeway to where you can find a hotel room or even an Airbnb that would be closer to the facility that you will be working. Okay. All right. So I talked about how I arrived, the hotel that I stayed in one of my previous videos. I did do a video of my hotel room. I stayed in Candlewood Suites, and the consulting company, they paid for that. They didn't pay me a stipend. Okay. They paid for the hotel room, so I didn't have to worry about that. And if you go to one of my other videos where I am actually showing my hotel room, I'm showing the entire hotel room. It was kind of like a kitchenette, because it had a full refrigerator, full kitchen, kitchen cabinets and everything. So it was really, really nice. It was like a studio apartment, okay, with a double bed. So that was very nice. Talked about my transportation. So let's talk about the actual facility that I worked with. Okay, it was a rehab facility. So it was one of those facilities where the patients, when they came in, it wasn't a long-term deal. It wasn't the place that they stayed. It wasn't their home. It was just a place that they came to get rehab for anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. Okay. And so I worked on the hardest skilled unit in that building. Okay. So this is something for you to think about too. When you become a travel nurse, 9 times out of 10, you will be put on the hardest floor in the building. Okay. Not only that, but you may be moved from floor to floor. So you may become a floater, and you may even be pulled off of your cart while passing meds to go work another cart. Okay. This is something also that you need to be aware of as a travel nurse. Okay. So as a travel nurse, we're pretty much used to fill in spots that need to be filled. Okay. So even if you've gotten used to the floor that you worked on, you know, there will always be a chance that you will be pulled from that unit to go to another unit. For instance, I had worked for the 8 weeks that I worked in the facility, I worked on my unit for 6 of those weeks. And then I decided to come in early one morning, and it would be on the day that I decided to come in early, right? I came in early to get my med card together, to order all of the refills that I needed for the day, to get all of the supplies that I needed for patients that were on IVs, you know, for patients that had colostomy bags, for patients that were on wound bags. You know, I got all of my supplies together because I did not want to have to leave my cart to go and get supplies during a med pass. I wanted everything to be there, right? So I cleaned off my cart really well, had everything stocked, had everything organized, right? And right before it was time for me to get ready to start working, this nurse walks up to me and says, "Oh, well, the scheduler says that you have to work on the COVID unit." Now, as a travel nurse, we can't really argue, you know, that, "Oh, well, this is the floor that I'm used to working on, and I just got my cart ready, you know, so that I could have a smoother day." We can't really argue that. And I don't think any nurse can really argue that, but especially travel nurses, because again, we are put there to fulfill a need. And that need is wherever they want us to go, then that's where we gotta go. Okay. And so I didn't feel real good about that. And for a moment, I got very frustrated, but then I had to snap out of it and say to myself, well, you know what? CK, this is what you were hired for, okay? So just make the best of it. So I already knew that the cart was going to be a mess. I already knew that I was going to be out of certain medications that the patients needed. I already knew that I was going to have to refill medications during my med pass. I already knew that I was probably going to have to get off of my cart a few times to go to the supply room. I didn't know the patients on that unit, so it was at the last minute. So it caused me to get behind. It caused me to have to work 3 hours past my quitting time that day, because again, it was a total mess. The reason why they pulled me to go to the COVID unit was because the agency nurses refused to go back to that unit because the facility was no longer paying for COVID pay. Okay, they no longer offered COVID pay. And so the agency said, no, we are not going to send our nurses over there unless you pay COVID pay. And so instead of them paying COVID pay, they decided to pull me off of the unit, off of the floor, or off of the hallway rather, that I worked for the past 6 weeks. Okay, so there is a great chance that that will happen to you as a travel nurse. And then there's a great chance that you will be moved from floor to floor each day. You know, there's a chance that you won't have a regular unit, a regular floor. Okay, so you know, just go into it with the mindset that, okay, wherever they need me, you know, this is where I'm going to have to be, and I'm just going to have to make the best of it. Okay. Also, there will be many times where there will be a shortage of nurses and a shortage of CNAs. Okay. One day, it was on a weekend, it was on a Saturday. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went into work, right, thinking that there was going to be 4 nurses on the skilled unit that we worked, because there were 4 hallways, right? So each nurse had their own hallways. Well, only 2 of us showed up. And we're standing there waiting for the other 2 nurses. And when they never showed up, we're calling the scheduler and we're like, okay, where are these other 2 nurses that you have on this sheet that says that they're supposed to be here? And she says, well, they just called in, they're from the agency, and so we only have 2 of you all today, you know. And I'm asking her, well, are you going to try to get more nurses in here? Because, you know, that's a very heavy workload for just 2 nurses, right? And she said, well, I'm going to try to get 2 nurses in. So I said, okay. So I go back to my med cart, right? And I'm getting my med cart together and everything. And the night nurse, she's counting with the other nurse, right? And then she comes to me and she says, you're going to have to count on the other cart too. To which I look at her and I said, no, ma'am, I am not counting another med cart. And she looks at me, you know, like, really? You know, and I'm like, no, I am not counting another med cart, because I already work on the hardest skilled hallway as there is. I have a lot to do. I have almost 30 patients, and you're asking me to count another med cart to where I'm going to go from 30 patients to almost 50 patients. I don't think so. I said, no, ma'am, I don't mean any harm. You know, I sympathize with your situation. I know that you worked all night by yourself on 4 hallways, which is upwards to almost 100 patients. But I'm sorry, I cannot put that many patients on my license. Okay. And then she got upset and she was like, well, I got to get out of here. I can't be in here all day. I can't work another shift and blah, 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 blah. Right. And so I'm like, well, what you can do is you can go to you can call the DON, or you can call the administrator, or you can call the scheduler, or you can call whoever the nurse manager is today, and you can talk to them about it. But I am not counting another med card. Okay. So there was a big to-do about that on that day. But I just refused. I refused because you have to understand, if you've never been a nurse, then listen to what I'm getting ready to say, okay? Because you nurses that are listening now, you know what this is, right? If you count a cart. Let's say you come into work, right, and you count your med cart, right, and your med cart has anywhere from 25 to 30 patients on it, right, and then you turn around and you count another med cart that may have 25 to 30 patients on it. You are going to be stuck with anywhere from 50 to 60 or even more patients for your 8-hour shift, okay? And you cannot walk off of the job. You cannot turn around later on and say, oh, well, I counted this cart, but I can't handle this many patients. Because guess what? You've already counted that cart. You have already accepted that patient load. And if you walk away, it will be considered abandonment and it will be a tag on your license. Okay, so for any of you that are listening now that are not nurses and you're contemplating on becoming a nurse and maybe even a travel nurse, then know that you have the right to turn down an extra med cart. You have that right. If you feel like you won't be able to handle that patient load, you have the right to turn it down. Okay, and me, I never accept an extra med cart. Never. I'm sorry. I never, because I already know that I won't be able to handle that many patients. Okay. So there is a possibility that you will be asked to count 2 med carts. And that is totally up to you. If you want to do that, if you want to put that kind of strain on your license, hey, be great. Go ahead and be great out there. As a nurse, I am not that great. Okay. I am not going to count 2 med carts. Okay. And so, from that day forward, they never asked me again because they already knew where I stood with that. And they made sure that they worked extra hard to get the amount of nurses that we needed on the weekends. Okay. Because Monday through Friday, we had enough nurses because everybody and their mama was there. You know, all of the therapy staff, okay, family members, the DON, the administrator, everybody was there Monday through Friday. But on the weekends, no one was there but us nurses and us CNAs, okay? Okay, so you have to advocate for yourself. And I'm always saying that. I said that in my last video. As a nurse, advocate for yourself because no one else is going to advocate for you, okay? Because we carry a lot of liability. Every time we step into a facility to take care of someone's loved one, we carry liability, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. What am I doing now? I am back at home in Tennessee, and I am currently working at the agency that I worked for when I left to go travel nursing. Okay. My agency, my home agency, who I have been working with for the past 3 years, they offered me a really good position, earning a very good salary. And so I decided to take that position. Okay. My original plans were to continue traveling and just travel for the entire year. Okay. But since my home agency offered me a good salary, I decided to stay here and work on the case that I am working now for a little while longer. Maybe I'll go back out at the end of the year. We'll just see how things pan out. I also have some projects in the making as well. So, you know, we'll just see how that pans out. I do want to accept another contract sometime this year, just not right now. Okay, so right now I am currently working back at my home health agency, taking care of one pediatric patient that is on a ventilator. Okay, so the quality of care is extremely high, right? We got to think about quality of care. And, you know, they're paying me a good salary for it. So it worked out really well for me, okay? Because I said to myself, well, when I come back, if I'm not offered a good position or a good case with my home agency, then I'll just go back out. But let me tell you the experience that I had with interviewing with other nursing agencies, okay? Vivian Health. If you've ever heard of Vivian Health, okay, they're supposed to be one of the biggest travel agencies that there is, one of the biggest, okay? And they place a lot of nurses. Well, I had an interview with them when I came back, like the next day after I came back. I had an interview with Vivian Health, one of the recruiters, right? I think his name was Jaden or something. Probably shouldn't have said his name, but anyway, he offered me, I wanted to travel again, but I wanted to travel local. I wanted to stay within Tennessee, okay? And the area that he was interviewing me for, it was 5 hours away from where I stay. So that meant that I would have to stay at a hotel room every night or Airbnb or whatever, right? I wasn't able to come home. I wasn't able to drive 5 hours back home after my shift. So that meant that I would have to stay in that area 5 hours away. And so this man offered me $1,000 a week to travel, including meals and incidentals. You figure it out. You do the math. $1,000 a week for meals and incidentals. And I would have had to find my own hotel room. Okay? Like, it doesn't make sense because I make more than that now in my home state. So why would I travel 5 hours away to create more expense for myself and earn less money? It doesn't make sense. And you nurses out there that are doing that, you are making it bad for us nurses who have the sense to know that when you are traveling, it is an extra expense, okay? When you are traveling, it is very inconvenient. You are away from your family for a certain period of time, okay? You need to be paid at least twice what you're paid in not including, that's outside of meals, incidentals, and stipend. Okay, so if you're being paid $1,000 a week, you need to be paid $2,000 plus meals and incidentals. If we continue to let these greedy travel agencies get away with not paying us what we are worth, then we're going to find ourselves in a very bad state as nurses, okay? So I wanted to share that with you. I've gone over everything that I wanted to talk to you guys about. My first experience as a travel nurse. Again, I may go out again sometime later on this year, but as for right now, I am staying in my home state with the agency that I worked for before I left, okay? If you have any other questions, anything that I have not covered during this video, then send me a message, okay? And I will answer as promptly as I can. And with that being said, thank you for listening, and until next time.
Hi, I'm DJ the Money Coach. I'm the founder of the 7 Spheres of Money system, and we've been in business for 20 years. That's right, 20 years. The reason why I'm coming out here to speak to you is to teach you about financial education, to make sure you don't panic right now. I'm going to teach you, like I've taught over 20,000 people over the past 20 years, how to become consumer debt free, become financially independent, retire with dignity, and most importantly, vet professionals in the 7 Spheres of Money. What is the 7 Spheres of Money? That's a great question. It is taking you through accounting, banking, insurance, mortgages, estate planning, legal, and small business practices. I have worked with the YMCA, the Federal Reserve, the Montgomery Regional Airport, where I've trained all their employees about financial education just recently in October. I also have worked with the state of Illinois Attorney General Office Young Attorneys. I've also worked with the state of Michigan on predatory lending. And why have I done that? Primarily for 2 reasons. Number 1, my mother was a victim of identity theft in the early 90s. Number 2, my mother was a victim of predatory lending in the late 90s. And number 3, I had a 525 credit score when I graduated from college with over $40,000 worth of consumable debt, not student loans. And I got turned down for a mortgage and a small business. I vowed to myself that with an accounting background, I'm going to learn how money makes money for you and become financially independent. And in 2002, I became consumer debt free. 2008, I became financially independent with a 7-figure net worth and a 6-figure passive income. And I've helped 1,000 people hit that plateau and 100 people open up businesses across the country. So I'm coming to you today to teach you the same thing. And why should you trust me? Because these organizations, Texas High School Sports Coaching Association. Over 40,000 members have trusted me to actually teach their athletic directors and their coaches about the same program. The YMCA has trusted me. The Montgomery Regional Airport has trusted me. The state of Illinois has trusted me, and the state of Michigan. So hit that link right now if you want to be consumer debt free, financially independent, retire with dignity, and most importantly, know how to ask the right questions from the right professionals to treat you right with the Platinum Rule. Hit that link, come to this webinar so that you can start building a pom-pom lifestyle. That's plenty of money and peace of mind. And then I want you to come join us on the Beaches of the World Club. I'm DJ the Money Coach. Hit that link, come to the webinar. God bless.